Oh, I'm live. So we can get some light in here. And there we go. What's going on, guys? See if anybody shows up for this. So basically, if you look at the shelves and look at this tired pie hole right here, didn't do a live show on Sunday, and I decided to kind of take a break because I announced I had a move. I had a new place, and I've got a collection of 12 to 14,000 comics to move along with the rest of my stuff. So the downstairs is a maze of boxes and stuff. I'll be moving the first load tomorrow, hopefully. And then we're going to do a carload here and there and hopefully get a U-Haul closer to the end of the month. But my God, I have moved my collection before. I've moved it many times, but something about the last 4 years between those big Ollie hauls where they had the hardbacks and trade paperbacks on sale. Um, those accumulated, took up all this. The collection of the Cerebus. Hey, what's going on there, Mr. Gretzky? And I mean, it's one of those things where maybe I'm just kind of venting. Maybe I'm freaking out a little bit because it's going to be a lot of work. And I barely made a dent in this, is what's amazing. So I figured, you know what? Take a break, between working and trying to do this. And now we're going to be moving carload by carload. I'm just sort of like, whoa. So let's take a break and do a little something different. So we got people piling up in here, which surprises me. Today is September 12th. It is 7:19 Eastern Standard Time. Kind of figure everybody be having dinner or finding something on TV to watch. Who knows, man? So as you can see with the shelves here, the DVDs are packed up. I've got a lot of the hardbacks, a whole shelf over here. Most of the trades are up. I'm stuck with a bunch of short boxes and long boxes. I feel you on the moving of comics. Yeah, and like I said, the last move was a little bit hairy, but I had the help of a friend or two there. This time, I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but what two things have happened. I finally have gotten to. I started a couple months ago doing the purge of comics, and I really don't. The stacks that I'm looking over there, probably accumulates maybe 200 books, and it's making me really reevaluate some of the stuff that I have. Think about just getting a bunch of stuff up and sticking it in an auction somewhere. See what I can find. But there's also little things like this that I was surprised that I've accumulated. A bunch of figures. Like you can see here, I have Planet of the Apes and a Hulk figurine that I forgot to pack, and I couldn't believe it. All the stuff up here has been packed. And I tell you what, it'd be easier to move the rest of the house than this stuff. I'm not sure if I want to take the shelves. On the plus side, if it is a plus side, the house that we're getting, I'm not having a bedroom to put my stuff in. It's sort of like what could have been the dining area or an alternate living room, if you will. Not quite a den. So I'm also sort of like my stuff's going to be out in the open. You know what I mean? So if we get company that's not my longtime friends or something like that, I think I'm kind of wondering how I'm going to handle that, having my stuff out in the open. It's going to be nice, be lit. It's probably going to make it to where I experiment with different kind of videos and stuff because I want to be closer to work, and work has the travel shut down. The traveling with work as of this month, I took care of a few things today. Some cases are transferring; they're coming to a close, so the travel's not going to be as bad. And it's people who watch this, they know that it's thanks to my travels I'm able to kind of hit places all across the state of Virginia when need be to do this stuff, man. But it's going to be massive. It's going to be massive, and I'm going to have to figure out how to coordinate all the stuff because the room isn't exactly four walls. It's the wall, the living room, the room I'll be putting them in, a kitchen, and a spare door. So there's two doorways in there. Then one wall is a big window. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this handles. Still going to be a good thing, but I have, like I said, the downstairs is packed full of boxes, and I've got to be able to move them in order to start moving some of this stuff out. So yeah, I figured, hey man, let's kind of get on here. Now the other thing about this is, as I'm going through this stuff, For you guys who have watched me for a long, long time, it's been amazing the video ideas that I've had, yet I'm not able to do them because this has to be done. And I'm beginning to think I should have wrote them down because as I go through this stuff and I pack this stuff up or I start going through the books, I start remembering when I bought them. I started thinking, hey, I meant to do a video on this stuff at one point. And then there's the thing where you find out the comics that the parts of your collection you really appreciate because maybe the box I had didn't have a lid. I've looked up and I've gotten about 10 boxes from work that the copy paper comes in. And if you've seen these things, they hold about 20 pounds of paper and they have lids. Well, there's two, three things that do not have lids, and that's what started freaking me out. You start really seeing, the things you appreciate. Of course, the big Watchmen collection I had, the Absolute Watchmen, the Portraits hardback, oversized book that doesn't really fit into a box that a photographer went around the set of the Watchmen movie and took black and white portrait photos of everyone. My first comics, I think it's first comics, first three trades of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You start looking at this stuff and you're like, well, I could blow this crap away, but I really don't want anything to happen to this. So it's real interesting. Mr. Gretzky's, I'm purging my collection again myself. Yeah, yeah. I talked about purging for months and months and months and just got started. And then we got a house out of the blue. Like we found it and, they were so impressed with us. They went ahead and just gave it to us. So it happened pretty quick. Um, so kind of got out of the loop a little bit. And then had some spare time yesterday and started looking around YouTube a little bit, see if there's anything I missed and stuff. And honestly, I don't think I have. So, I mean, there's things I could talk about, but it's like at this point, it's like just beating a dead horse. There's plenty of videos out on it, out there. The It 2 movie is not on par, but people think it's great. Uh, a majority of the people that I saw thought the Legion of Superheroes Millennium, like I thought was pure crap. And you got those few people out there who are just I don't know what the deal is. They seem to think it's great. And I actually saw Newsarama or maybe Comic Book Resources or somebody did a review of this book and gave it a 9 out of 10. That's ridiculous. Books like Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns, Mouse by Spiegelman, and all this stuff, those are books that get 9 and 10s. Yeah, this is not a 9 or 10. So right there off the bat, I'm like, I'm not missing anything in the comic book news while I'm moving and sort of purging, kind of inadvertently have taken a break from comic book YouTube and news sites and things like that. And there's so much more to talk about than comics, really. You know what I mean? But that's the big thing going on right now. Dark Shadows is getting a reboot on CW. Now, that is one thing we could talk about because that is some of the things that I have seen. Um, on that I've been following and on the internet and things like that. The Watchmen TV show on HBO has been announced for October 20th, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think people are underestimating what that show is going to be. And then you have people like me who may be overestimating what that show is going to be. All right. For the people that are out there who haven't really looked this up, I follow them on Instagram, a little bit on Twitter, I have them on Facebook. But it seems like I get the good stuff on their Instagram account, right? If for the Watchmen, right? And it's not a sequel to the movie. It seems I know people aren't into this stuff like we are if you're watching this and how I am and things like that. But I just can't get over how people jump on the internet like they know it all, and then they get corrected in these comment sections and stuff. And I end up not reading the comments, but when I do, it never ceases to amaze me. People just make a lot of assumptions, or they think they're the smartest person in the room. That's the internet for you. You know what I mean? But it's not a sequel to the movie; it's a sequel to the actual comic. And I think this past week, there's been like this little, I don't know if I'd call it a trailer, but there's this little video that's been put out where they have some of the creators explaining, you can read the book of Watchmen and follow this, but you don't have to. You can just pick right up and things, right? Which I think is going to be fascinating to watch. A lot of people are still thinking that this is an adaptation of the comic, and they're like, why do we need this? Or they think it's a sequel to the movie, and they still don't realize Watchmen was a book. Of course, I would be getting messages when I started this, and we'll read those later. Now, Dark Shadows on CW. It's going to have a young spin on it. Dark Shadows was gothic romance. I have friends on YouTube who are huge Dark Shadow fans. I dabbled in it. I listened. That's one of the few things my mom actually shared a story with when she was a little girl. Soap operas and stuff weren't actually meant for kids. And when Dark Shadows took the turn with Barnabas Collins of going into gothic romance before there was even a term for this, you would jump off the bus and run home and watch Dark Shadows. It was very, you were getting away with murder. In my opinion, it was like comic books back in the day for little kids. You know what I mean? Oh, they're reading those comic books from cause juvenile delinquency, or this has adult tones. But I will say that with the original Dark Shadows, I was lucky enough to see some reruns or something. I saw it. So I finally got to see a bunch of them. I would catch it here and there. Every now and then, you would have in the '80s, you would have local stations with their syndication show you He-Man cartoons, and then you get 6 weeks of Star Trek. Or on Sundays, you get a Star Trek episode and a Godzilla movie around here and stuff like that. So I was able to catch bits and pieces of Dark Shadows, The Avengers, Mission Impossible, the classic TV. But I looked up and I got to see how they dragged out, and it was brilliant, by the way, how they dragged out the revelation, the reveal of Barnabas Collins, right? Somebody was like in a cave. And in this episode, you saw them like there was a secret door here or something. And then you have to tune in the next day, and they found a coffin wrapped in chains, and they were about to open it. Then you had to come back the next day. It was like a 3 or 4 episode event of Barnabas just coming out of the coffin. So CW, it seems like they did another Dark Shadows. I don't know, at the turn of the century or something. I could be wrong. Shooting from the hip here. Didn't go anywhere if they did. So for CW to be getting a hold of the Dark Shadow stuff, that should be interesting. And they're doing Riverdale. Everything they do is targeted at the young. No big deal. Everything has a twist of darkness in it. Riverdale, I kind of got hooked on Riverdale there for the first 3 or 4 episodes before I realized it wasn't for me. So I really hope they do Dark Shadows, even though it's going to be for a younger generation, and they don't do 90210 with a little bit of goth in it. You know what I mean? I'm picturing them playing a lot of The Cure in it or something, okay. So hopefully that'll be good. But the HBO show for The Watchmen is the one I'm putting my money on. I'm going to be totally biased. I'm not going to be able to judge if it's good or bad unless it's really bad. And from what I've already seen, I'm already catching how they're bringing back a few of the characters from the book. Silk Spectre, Laurie, is going to be very interesting with how she looks like she's some sort of FBI agent and stuff, right? Rob Dowdy's excited about Dark Shadows. The Great Legend and I'm sure Hippies collectibles are very excited about it. Those are actually the two people who are huge Dark Shadow fans that I know about. They show off their old Gold Key comics with the posters inside and everything like that. It's nothing but good, right? Movie wise, this is already helping, man. I'm going to put the slinky down because I'm sure that's driving anybody nuts that's got earphones on. Movie wise, I feel like I have 2 months worth of Halloween coming up here, right? I saw It Part Two. It doesn't even it doesn't hold a candle to the first one. I was we all kind of came out underwhelmed, and we didn't want to say how bad it was, but it was pretty bad, in my opinion. Structurally, characterization wise, it just wasn't there. I'm losing people. Sorry you didn't like it, but we have Three from Hell coming up. We have Doctor Sleep coming up. Three from Hell is the last of a trilogy that started with House of a Thousand Corpses, and then of course The Devil's Rejects it's just a classic. So we get this Three from Hell, and then we also have Doctor Sleep, which is a sequel to The Shining based on the book that Stephen King wrote. So is it going to be a sequel to The Shining, the movie that Kubrick did that Stephen King disowns, or is it going to be Doctor Sleep, the book, a sequel to The Shining book? You follow what I'm saying? Your eyes can cross if you think too much about this stuff. We've reached a point where everything has been done, revisited, rebooted, reshot, everything. Or could it be a sequel to the who did it? Sci-Fi or somebody? They did a miniseries of The Shining the way Stephen King wanted it to do it. No telling. No telling. It's going to be some good stuff. So I hope I have the move done with by the end of the month so I can kind of get back into the stuff, do regular shows, and maybe experiment with a few videos if I have time. Hopefully work's going to wind down and I can be a player out there again. So maybe take YouTube just a little bit more serious now, you know what I'm saying? So, because there's a lot of channels struggling out there, and I feel bad that they're struggling. Me, this is something I'll hop on here. If a few people pop up, that's great. If not, and then I'll have the odd video that takes off, and I have no idea why. I have no idea why. No idea what that lightning in a bottle was and stuff, right? But I really need to start writing down my ideas for videos as I'm packing and stuff, right? It's kind of hard to quit what you're doing to write something down. I had a ton of videos that I had in mind just from the comics I pulled, and now they're all packed up and stuff, right? But oh my God, there's still so much more to do. Um, the things that really get you are the meticulous little boxes you have. I have steps here, so it's like grab a short box or two if I can hold. If you can keep them balanced, take them downstairs, come back up the steps, maybe grab a long box. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, 14, 17, 20. Looks like I have like 22 short boxes left. And that's 6, 12, 14. Looks like 17 long boxes, and then all this stuff up here. I've used up all the boxes, but the bitch of it's going to be all these Wizard magazines I have on this bottom shelf down there. Those are going to be the fun ones. Those get heavy if you pack them in a box, you know. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of packing to do. All right, what do we got going on out there? Okay, no new comments and stuff, right? Now, comic book wise and comic book news and stuff, it seems like the what I've been picking up on are, I think people have really, how can I say this? Doesn't seem to be a lot of comic book news that isn't clickbait, if you will. And it seems like instead of reporting news, a lot of these comic book websites continue to try to make news on their own. And YouTube has had a really strong effect on these. I'm seeing it sort of. I mean, this is just random, I know, but these are the things I've been thinking about as I've been packing and maybe poking my head here and there and stuff like that. But the websites and stuff, as much as they like to, there was a time where they were saying, I saw something where is YouTube killing the comic book industry and stuff, right? Which is ridiculous. But I find it really interesting that a lot of people would like to silent channels on YouTube and ignore them and say that they're trolling and stuff. And a lot of the comic book companies have asked people to keep things in house and for creators to behave online and things like that. Yet it seems like if it gets too quiet, all of a sudden Bleeding Cool is really bad for it. They'll just make this inflammatory article, hoping you can just tell they're hoping that they make this symbiotic relationship of like, we'll piss you off and then you make a video and you talk about it and we'll get clicks and we'll get things going there and stuff like that. Um, being way out, my gosh, unreal. Being kind of on the outside of this and not delving into that and kind of taking it all in and things like that, I just kind of shake my head. I just kind of shake my head of like, this is what's become online. And just thank God that I have all these comics from way back in the day and I can go find the older comics and stuff I've sort of always meant to get or complete sets and stuff like that. But if you're into that kind of drama and things like that, there's a lot of views to be made and a lot of advertising money to, AdSense money to be made and things like that. Yet nothing is now changing. It's all sort of gone stale. It is what it is. There's no change going on. Uh, there's no, it's just kind of gone stale. And I feel like right around the corner, there's going to be something that pops either in comics or on YouTube that's going to connect to our hobby here. You know what I mean? When I say right around the corner, I'm feeling the next year or so something's going to blow up. You know what I mean? No telling what it's going to be. Could be our Nirvana. Just come in, but I'll take any time to shoot on Bleeding Cool. What happened? This is Henry Studio, California. I'll just kind of repeat what I was talking about because basically I'm just taking a break from moving 12 to 14,000 comics and trade paperbacks and things like that. And I've stuck my nose in here and there when I get a break just to kind of see if there's anything going on. Comic book wise, when I get a break, between work and moving, not a lot of time. But I was just sort of talking about how, like, I've seen Bleeding Cool pop up with an article or two where you can just tell that they want a video made about it. You know what I mean? They want, they're trying to get a symbiotic relationship that they're not going to express, that they're not going to admit to where come and click on this article and we'll be waiting on your video for it because we're purposely poking the bear. You know what I mean? It's obvious. All right. Oh yeah, their attention whores to the max. Exactly. That's how I should have just cut to the bone on that one. Just should have just cut to the bone. And it kind of blows my mind because I remember when Wizard magazine started out and comic scene and stuff. But Wizard was the big one. You could tell that there were some smart articles and interviews and stuff about comics, and they were researched. And the interviews were really in depth and fascinating. I mean, they got Alan Moore to do a thing, and they did Frank Miller on there, and then all of a sudden it was sort of like eBay came about, and Wizard sort of revealed themselves that they were kind of in on it. You know what I mean? They weren't. There's no journalistic integrity, if you will, but they never claimed to be journalists. But they did little stunts to where they would build up to eBay blowing up. eBay comics and stuff in the late 90s, you could get things for nothing, yard sale prices on there. No exaggeration. I got the first 5 issues of Mr. Miracle, including shipping, $5 off of 2 auctions. No joke. I got a Commandy #1 off of there for like maybe $2 and $1 shipping back then. I'm not exaggerating. Okay. And then all of a sudden, eBay sort of had like a little piece in an article talking about eBay comics, and then in the next issue there was a little bit of a bigger article, and then the third month it was a big 2-page spread that somebody had drawn out of like this neighborhood and kids running around comics or something. I'm sure I could find it, and then that's when the comic book scene on eBay blew up. Wizard magazine also did this thing where after Kingdom Come came out, they were like, hey, we're going to get Alex Ross and let him do a Kingdom Come version of Marvel Comics in the future, his vision. And everybody's seen it. He came out with this little sketchbook, mini comic that was sealed in with a Wizard magazine. And it was all this work that Alex Ross had done just because Wizard asked him. And oh my goodness, all of a sudden it becomes a Marvel maxi series. They get a trilogy out of it. When the Sentry came out, Sentry, Sentry, they acted like it was this long lost character that never got published from the Silver Age that was left over. But whoever the creator was, they said they created this character or something. It was like the first name of a letterer and the last name of a colorist or something. And a guy at a comic book shop at Mount in Bristol who owned the comic book shop was the guy that like, I'm suspicious of this because these two names, he told me who they were. And Wizard was in on the joke. They started working with him. But it goes all the way back when Wizard magazine put, who was it they put on there? They put an Image character by Rob Liefeld on the cover with a character he worked on, Cable. I think it was Cable. And who's the guy that who shot the arrows with Youngblood? It's right on the tip of my tongue. Oh, Shaft, Cable and Shaft. They put them on the cover in an early issue of Wizard magazine, and Marvel had a fit. And it seems like after that, they sort of had a working thing. And if you don't believe that, go back and look up the Wizard covers, and you'll count how many times Wolverine appeared on the cover. Here we go. Mark Wade has always hated Wizard. What you just said clears that up, unless he dislikes them for different reasons. Cayman X High. Hey, what's up, Cayman X? I'm familiar with the Sentry story. Actually, kind of clever. Shaft. You have a Shaft. Everybody jumped over Shaft. I did remember. I appreciate the help. Wizard magazine had a really sordid history a little bit, right? They were used by, this to show you, Frank Miller. I think he was at a convention in San Diego or something. But he came up and he made this big speech about the comic book industry and all the parasites that had attached itself to it, and that, like barnacles on a ship and stuff, right? And you can look up the speech online. It's real easy to find. You know what I mean? It was news. And he came up there, and when he was talking about all these people bleeding the comic book industry alive, he held up an issue of Wizard and he ripped it. threw it in the garbage. Sin City comes out somewhere like and stuff like that. He's the guest of honor at a wizard convention, I think. It seems like all bridges were passed. So it's sort of like wrestling. You get to a point where you don't know what's real and what's not, and what's to get attention and what's to make the news. Wizard also helped keep a lot of rivalries going that were either fun or sort of ugly. The big fun one was in the went on for years or months, maybe a few years. Was could Iron who was it? Iron Man versus the X-Men, I think was it. Could Iron Man take out the X-Men? Or something like that. And this was in the letters column. They also had Peter. They helped the Peter David Todd McFarlane thing sort of keep going to where I think Peter David and Todd McFarlane ended up having a debate at a comic book convention somewhere. I never knew if that was real or not. Things like that is all over Image, creators' rights versus company, and things like that. And of course, Todd McFarlane and Peter David worked on the Hulk together back in the 80s. So you never knew what it was. A lot of people are crapping on Mark Waid and his attitude and what he's talking about. And of course, we all know about the lawsuit with diversity in comics and stuff. It's really impossible to have anything to do with comic book YouTube or websites, the comic book news, Twitter, anything like that, and not run across it. We all know about it, right? We all know what's going on, the case over torturous interference and stuff, right? But and some other things. But it's Wade has either lost his mind or he's learned how to troll the internet to stay relevant. You know what I mean? Um, or maybe it's a little bit of both. We don't know all the facts with him or what's going on with him, but I can say that people who are often set themselves up thinking that they're the hero, and his big mantra is the strong protect the weak, if I'm remembering right. It's this big thing of saying that comes from people who when they were little they felt like they had no power, and it's not the weak they're trying to protect, it's that they're trying to prove that they're not the weak. You know what I mean? Don't know if that's the case with him. I've actually met Mark Waid at a comic book convention, but you're not going to get to know somebody in a 10-minute moment with them at a convention. I will say that I have feedback from other people that go to comic book conventions where Wade has appeared, and the lines are not there. Okay. I mean, we're not saying that there's not like maybe a rush of people that get to see him, but after those people who want to see him, it's a pretty slow weekend for the rest of the cons. What I've been told. So I think there's some issues going on there to where I'm not going to attack Wade or talk about it too much, but I really feel like there's some help needed. I really do. Or maybe there's not. I met him. He's really nice, but I can't stand his optimism, and anti-edgy attitude. Still a nice person, though. Fair enough. Um, his BS rant he has, Daredevil give Rachel Cole Alves, Femme Punisher, and his run makes me so mad. Just look it up. Maybe it will, man. I might touch on that. Um, he basically says, "How dare you be motivated by selfish and unheroic attitudes?" Oh my God, with no pun intended. Yeah, the biggest thing that I think that might prove that Wade, I don't want to say gone too far. Like I said, I think there's some issues there, but it's that Marvel 1000 issue. We all know, I'm sure if you don't know, you can look it up, but he did this essay in it condemning America. You know, the biggest thing is that was supposed to be a celebration of 80 years of Marvel, and somehow Wade didn't make it about that. He took that opportunity to go after what America being imperfect and stuff, right? Yeah, it is imperfect. And I think one or two, I think I did see, who was it? I saw one video came up in my feed. Um, and I watched it and I figured in that video, everything that needed to be said was said, to be honest with you. But the only thing I think I would add to it is that how ironic that people who really like to put down their country are allowed to say it because that country has protected their rights to say it. It doesn't make you, how can I say this? Your right to speech is protected, but your protection from consequences aren't. And that's kind of how we have the checks and balances out here. You know what I mean? It's out there. I kind of go by the whole thing, anything, just about anything is that my right to do anything will say my right to throw a punch ends at the tip of somebody's nose. And that's how rights work and stuff. You know what I mean? I can throw punches all day long and stuff, but I'm gonna look like an idiot throwing punches in the air, their actions just some people just kind of bury themselves. What we got here? Oh, Henry Studio CA. I flipped through number 1,000, didn't see that. Holy crap. That's because Marvel pulled it. They pulled it. There was I think the retailer copies had it in it, and that's how it got out. But Marvel replaced it with something else that I think Mark Waid wrote. I think. That's not ironic. That's how the system is supposed to work. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Um, and since we're on the thing, on the subject and stuff, sometimes people will, you know, that's their only socialization, and the only way they really socialize and stuff is online, and they really get worked up about it, and they really start getting territorial, and they get the sense of superiority, like they've been around a long time online or something like that, and they kind of forget that they don't own it, and they kind of lose it. I've seen YouTube videos where people have accidentally, not realizing, gotten so comfortable in front of this camera and in front of talking to people. Like they'll start talking about comic books, they'll start talking about movies, they'll start talking about their painting, and all of a sudden they end up. A lot of shitlords did it. If you remember those a couple years ago, they end up using the camera as a counselor. All of a sudden, they just start word vomiting and stuff, right? And all these feelings come out. And I'm like, did you not watch this before you loaded it? I think a lot of people do that also. So when people say that was out of context or they're trying to say they were misquoted, it was their intent. And they didn't realize they went too far and a little bit embarrassed. They don't want to come out and said, stuff started coming out. This was Fort Knox. If you want to see what I'm talking about, look up it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia clip on YouTube. It's only 3 minutes or something like that, called Frank Gets Therapy. And that's when you watch that, it's freaking hilarious. And that's how people like Wade and them, that's how I view them of what they do. If you watch that clip and then insert one of these people that loses their mind on social media, that's what it's like. What we got here? He had a nice essay in there that was about why Cap inspires people. Must have been the replacement essay. Yeah, good, good. I hope it was. I don't know anybody that spent money on that Marvel 1000 personally in real life, but online there was people that felt like they were gypped. Oh my God, they were so angry about it. Cap isn't just a character you can criticize America with. You have to be a talented writer if you're really going to hold him. You have to be balanced. Cap may put down the government, but he'll take up for the American spirit. You know what I mean? That was handled. Mark Grunwald handled a few stories like that were fantastic. Did you read the essay? Very well done. I think I read the first one. I didn't. The one that got pulled. Seems like I might have read the second one if the article had it attached. Like I said, I've just been in and out of all this stuff. I haven't really like enmeshed myself in it. So much stuff happens on the internet and comic book news, and with these guys, especially people like Wade and stuff. All I can say to myself is, wait 5 minutes. There'll be something else to be, talked about. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. That's why I'm saying some of the stuff I don't know, I don't know what is stunts, what is a person being a character, and what's real. I mean, I'm just like that, a little bit skeptical. Um, and trust me, I'm an effing liberal on domestic policies as it gets, right on foreign stuff though. But Cap has always been a feel good character. He's supposed to inspire and inspirational. If he does get down or he does get dark, it to me, it should be symbolic of something that's going on in America. And then the end game, we see him rise again. You know what I mean? Like being in battle and you come up with a war torn flag, but the flag's still standing. Um, that's to me that would be the heart of it. I could handle Captain America getting dark or going down. I mean, he's became nomad, a symbol of a man with no country before. You know what I mean? He became the captain, You know what I mean? Because he was sort of more the American spirit than the American government, and then the government gave it to that Walker dude, who became the U.S. Patriot or whatever. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm gonna go back and watch this and be like, you messed up, you freaking '80s Captain America, Tim. Um. Oh, and I know Cap would dislike Trump. I hear we're going to be real careful not to get too political, but when it comes to Cap was a soldier, and as a soldier, you're taught to respect the rank, if not the person. So Cap may dislike him, but Cap would still respect him because he is the president. That title, you know what I mean? That's what I think about that, and that's just because I was in the military, and that's one of the ways you get around working with assholes. Not saying I'm saying who's an asshole here or not. I'm just saying they teach you respect the rank, if not the person. Um, what we got here? John Nay Reber, Books of Magic, tried addressing foreign policy and Native Americans in his run. I haven't read that. It seems like everybody has something they want to address politically in comics. Um, and they take a platform that they're just being hired to keep a title going, something they didn't create, and they want to, instead of saying what these characters would say, they want to say what they would say through them. That kind of makes it disingenuous, in my opinion. You know what I mean? I'm not saying there's not a story to be told. I'm just saying the characters aren't telling the story. It goes back to what I was saying about the camera, and I've seen people on YouTube end up using it, as a counselor. It's what happens. They forget they have characters who already act a certain way. You know what I mean? Good storytelling is where you take a character that and you put them in a messed up situation. That's where a good story can come from. You back them into a corner, you put them through hell. How would that character react to it? You know what I mean? So yeah, when it comes to, like, if you have something to say politically and stuff, that's been the big bath. That's why people say some of this stuff is shoehorned and stuff. This is not a story these characters would be involved in, nor is this the way they react, nor is that how they would talk about it. You know what I mean? Um, we got. I try my best to ignore internet outrage culture. Yeah, there comes a point where if you're so far outside of it, you just kind of watch it and shake your head. You know what I mean? Like I'm fascinated with people who take it very serious, and this is what they do. I mean, I just can't imagine what kind of person gets out there. I mean, I've seen some things that got me going, but it's like a culture is the word. You know what I mean? I just wow, just wow. That's when it's time to take a break from things and not take them too serious. I always thought how Cap originally made people mad in a way we've come full circle. Okay. Still going on about him. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. We got Henry Studio, California, going on about Cap and government and stuff like that and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of interesting when you have your comic book collection and your comic book collecting, and then you come on there and you see people using comics as a platform to talk about things, and the outrage culture, and they take this stuff very serious. They're going through there and they're trying to find things. And to me, this stuff's all been said and done. There's a big part of history that's repeating itself. You know what I mean? Just in different context. And to me, that's why this stuff is just ridiculous and pointless. And it's not going to go anywhere. The First Amendment's not going anywhere. It's still there. People are pushing it, trying to reinterpret it, trying to twist it around. But you got to be suspicious of the very people who want to control speech and take people's speech away, think they're going to gain something. What they don't realize is that they were successful taking your free speech away. Uh, it's when it shows up at their door that they've lost theirs too. They thought they were going to gain something or have special treatment or be part of the group that's in the now. Like we were ahead of the game. We're not going to lose anything. So I watch this stuff and I just kind of shake my head because I'm just sort of like, this has all happened before. I'm like, Um, Gresky says I blocked a few YouTube channels. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. You block some channels. You didn't get out here and try to shut the channels down and stuff like that. They end up having their own consequences. You had your reasons for doing it, and that's why the block button's there. Yeah, yes, Henry Studio Cap California, you can block channels. Yeah, Yeah, they lost their mind. Yeah, they kind of got caught up on in some of the stuff. They had their meltdowns. A lot of people look into the abyss, and the abyss will stare back, and they go a little nuts. They just get caught up. To me, they just get too caught up in this stuff. Comic book. I've had times where I had to pull myself out of YouTube a couple years ago, man. I was living out in the middle of nowhere, and I was making videos left and right and talking to people online. And maybe I was going out seeing people twice a month because I lived. It was 30 minutes before you could start going somewhere. You would drive 30 minutes, and then you're like, now I can get somewhere. Another hour drive or something. So I totally get it. That's why I can recognize some of this stuff and can tell when people need to take a break or that's become their life. I think when you're spending every day making 2, 3 videos. I mean, I'm not talking about like a month. I'm not talking about 3 or 4 months you did this stuff. There's people on here that's been making 2 and 3 videos for going on 2, 3 years that I know of. It's not healthy. Okay, I don't care what they say. I don't care how famous they are. I don't care how much AdSense money they're having. There's not enough money for someone to have their mental health affected and emotional health affected. But they're adults. They can make their own choices. I love comics is there. Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, yeah. A lot of people want to vent and stuff. I've done videos before and talking just like this where people were amazed that I said that. You said that. It needed to be said and things like that. And sometimes I don't see that. To me, it's just we're a bunch of grown-ups talking. It blows my mind how people let go of their power to other people. I mean, I'm not going to get all philosophical here. I'm not going to talk about self-esteem, but it blows my mind how people can fear the outrage culture, the cancel culture, these people that don't even know they're not even real. I got videos going back to 2015 where I've said this before, and people hand their power over like they're afraid to say something. What is really going to happen to you? Because you're not calling for revolution. What you say is enough. You have a viewpoint, and that's all it takes. It's an opinion. It's all how you handle yourself with it and handle how people want to silence you. And it's when people want to silence you, you need to ask, why do they want to silence me? You can just block them and move on and stuff, but you don't back down. I love comics. My wife tells me to take time off. Listen to your wife, man. Listen to your wife. She's saying something you're not. Um, you and your wife's relationship is you and your wife's relationship, man. But biggest thing about I was married and I'm in a really good relationship, and I can tell you that I've learned when to listen. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You take a little time off, you give her a little attention, you find another hobby. I've been kayaking and stuff, right? I mean, it's good stuff. This stream seems to be attracting an older demo. Well, good, good, Eric Breen. He's got a big smiley face with that. I have no problem with that. The comic book companies have made it feel like us dinosaurs and stuff are not wanted, because they went for that imaginary audience that doesn't buy comics and stuff. So we're still kicking, we're still living. They didn't kill us. We're still here. We still have our comics. You know what I mean? And it's good to have grown up, rational talks. I mean, a lot of people are going to see this video, move on to the next one, and already forget what we're doing here. We're having a good time now. You know what I mean? I get a very everyman vibe from you. I guess I'm sure, man. Cool. I'll take that as a compliment. Old men comics. That's funny, man. What I also like is I've revealed my age on here before, not thinking about it, and apparently somebody else in another video had revealed how old they were, and there were some younger guys on here that were freaking out how young we look when we say how old we are and stuff like that. Good. Dark Horse Comics seems to be losing their properties. I've been seeing Gressy's saying that. I've said this before. I think it was about a year ago. I found Dark Horse Comics had a YouTube channel. And if you go look at their videos and you listen to the two young people that they have announcing what their jobs are as they're trying to do this and stuff like that, I was not surprised. I knew Dark Horse had been infiltrated, and I'm surprised they've been able to hold on to Hellboy. I really am. I think they've been selling stock and stuff. Yeah, we're we're living comic book history right now, and I've always said that the last 5 years, probably going all the way back to '52, is going to be a black eye on the history of comics. I've always said that I don't know how we're at a time where it's really um, what's the word? There's a lot of things going on that's unpredictable, even though we see the car wreck rolling and happening with a lot of these companies, but they seem to keep going. And it seems like it's the comic book shops that suffered. You know what I mean? So it's going to be real interesting to realize that we're living in a part of comic book history right now, and I can't wait to see what happens, where it goes. Doesn't mean I'm buying books. It'd be nice to be excited about the comics again instead of where's this drama going. But we're seeing history right now. You know what I mean? The hobby will survive. That's just it. The hobby is a niche group, and there's all sorts of alternatives, but it's the shops that get hurt. You know what I mean? A lot of people try to bring up the 80s. Almost every Marvel comic was selling 100,000 copies. Yeah, that is true. But that was when they were on newsstands. That's when they were on spinner racks. That's when they were in grocery stores. That's when they were on magazine. The guys on the sidewalks that sell their newspapers and stuff were right there on the sidewalk and stuff like that. There was a lot more places they were selling them to. You could go into a grocery store up until about the mid 90s and find comics. You know what I mean? You never knew what it was going to be. 6 months of one comic and then they'd have something else. Things like that. They were in drugstores, gift shops. Yeah, there was 100,000 comics selling because they were on pulp paper, and you could find them everywhere. Now, order directly from an online shop or a comic book shop. You know. Oh man, I'm losing some. Let me see what's going on here. To think modern history comics is a second dark age. I have a soft spot for the first dark age. I'm going to assume you're talking about the 50s and the congressional stuff and the seduction of the innocent. I would call it, since 52 as well, a darker period from the 90s. I actually think DC is doing good, but that's based upon my interest. A lot of talking going on. It's a transition period. How does Valiant still around when they go to cons but don't have much to offer? How is Valiant still around? I think Valiant has a niche group and they have been losing that group. I don't have numbers to show you. I just know people that have hung on to one book, XO or Bloodshot, and a lot of those people that are hanging on to Bloodshot. Now, this is actual collectors that I know and stuff. They're just hanging on to Bloodshot because there may or may not be a movie. They've announced a movie twice. I've heard they said it wasn't happening once. They kind of hang in there. And then you got some people that are actually fans of those characters. They're glad to see them. But yeah, they've hired some people that just kind of shows you that they're just doing the same mistakes other companies have done. Um, there we go. Yeah, Henry Studios right there. Valiant has the Bloodshot movie coming. However, those DC titles are either characters and writers I like. Mr. Grexy says Sony Pictures needs to get the trailer out. Sounds like you guys are more up on the Bloodshot movie than I am. Comics went quiet everywhere in the 80s. This is Jared Osborne. Check out his channel. Comics weren't quite everywhere in the 80s. By the late 70s, newsstands were losing interest in comics and kicking them off in the stands. The direct market actually saved comics. Jared and I have different memories. There's actually been a time or two I wanted to message him, but since he's here and stuff, we have different memories. I'm in a rural area and stuff. I don't know where Jared grew up at and stuff, but I was like in the Appalachian Mountains, kind of considered in the South. And when I talk about these things, this is what me and a lot of people had down here and stuff, right? They were still all over the places down here. And you're saying that around where you were at or whatever your experience is, I'm going to assume you're from up north, you were seeing the direct markets and stuff hit. They weren't hitting around here at the same time they were hitting for you. So the best way I can describe it is, and I gave this some thought over another video I shot, it's almost like we were like 6 to 10 years behind you. You know what I mean? Behind what you were seeing around the same time. Henry Studio, they even did a variant Vin Diesel inspired Bloodshot cover. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's stuff going on. And that's another thing where the hobby has sort of changed and stuff. People don't read the comics like I kind of assumed everybody did and stuff. It's been pointed out to me many times that there are people who just collect the covers and variant covers. It's almost like it's replaced the trading card hobby for people. You know what I mean? And I've seen it, man. People get their stuff CGC graded, and they name off 2 or 3 companies stuff, and they take it very serious. And they go for that 9.8, 9.9. I've seen people whose hearts were broken because they got a 9.2. I just kind of don't get that, but it's important to them. And then someone had to explain to me they don't read the comics, they're collecting the covers and an issue that's supposed to be a key or something. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I get that. I get that because even growing up, there were niche collectors when I was growing up. There are people who didn't collect comic books per se, but what they would do is they'd get headlight covers, covers from the 40s and 50s and anything they could find where it was big guns, if you will, on the women. They get it's a lot of this is still around. I just don't think they call it what it is anymore. There's people who just got spread eagle covers. Spread eagle covers is where Lois Lane had a bunch of covers where she would be tied up or floating in water, and there'd be a phallic symbol coming at her crotch, just to call it what it is. Bondage covers where your heroines are all tied up and stuff like that. I mean, people would see things there that you wouldn't catch until people pointed it out. People collected those. The ones that have always fascinated me, and I found out they're still around, are the people who just collect Supergirl comics. That's it. They would get the adventure comics, action comics, the late 60s and 70s and stuff, and they just loved Supergirl. I mean, it just blew my mind. And these are people who didn't collect comic books, but they would get that. Jared Osborne. Oh, come here. I says he grew up in the suburbs of NYC. There were about half as many comics on newsstands in '82 as compared to '76. Jared, I'm telling you, man, I'm really thinking it's where we grew up in the regions and stuff. You were up in New York. We're down here, out in the rural communities of like what I said and stuff like that. We were behind on a lot of stuff. We didn't get cable and MTV around here until 1985, and that stuff started what 80, 81 up there. That's just an example of what I'm saying. We were just behind. I think you were seeing things happen, that eventually trickled down here and stuff like that. Henry Studio, California. Holy shit, when were those covers? Those covers go back to the 40s, man, that I was talking about. Bats and his cat or Howler and his Slinky. Oh, yeah, I'm putting the Slinky down. Sorry, guys. Um, I feel like the company pushes overpriced variants that flew end up dollar bins a few. Okay, what they're trying to say is that a lot of these variant covers end up in dollar bins. Jared Osborne, my local 7-Eleven gave up carrying comics around '79, and I had to find a new spot buy them. Yeah, we didn't have a 7-Eleven around here. The closest one was an hour and a half away. And I went to one like in '77 or something, and my stepdad ended up buying that Kiss magazine that had their blood in it, that Marvel Super Special. Jared Osborne said they had cable in the mid '70s. There you go, Jared. That's what I'm saying. You guys had it in the '70s. I'm picturing you watching the George Klein HBO comedy special now or something like that. We had Showtime hit around '79 or '80, and that was it. One channel, and you had to have a special box. Cable didn't come in until 1985 around here. So there you go. That's what I'm getting at. All right, man, this ended up being an interesting stream. Talked about a little bit of everything. I feel more calm. I feel more calm about moving this stuff now. I'm packing this stuff and not worrying about it being damaged so much and stuff. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Yeah, I played with my Slinky and talked about a few things here. So I feel very close to you guys for somebody talked about my Slinky. One of the few things that I found since moving that I want to check out is I have a VHS tape here that is unmarked, and I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of afraid what could be on it. Yeah, Jared Osmond. Ha, I did see that Robert Klein comedy special. There you go. There you go. I saw it in '86. The one that got me was where he was like, "This is cable," and he's looking at the audience, and he's like, "I can say things," and this was a big deal to be able to cuss and know it was going to be on TV. He was like, "Shit." And he yelled it out and everybody laughed. Gretzky, my grandparents had cable before we did. Man, around here there were people that did not get running water until they had cable before they had running water in some parts up here. Okay. But I think that's really about it, man. I just want to get what do we got here? Okay, there's people just kind of talking, man. But I've been on here almost an hour, man. It has flown by. Thanks for the people thrown out there. As usual, I'm going to say goodbye. But if people want to throw out a question there or a topic like that, I'll tackle it. All I'm really going to do is make a sandwich, load up this car, and start. All right, guys. I think that's it. Thanks for popping in. I'll try to stream when I can. I'm really worried about when. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I couldn't go a whole stream without a problem there, it looks like. See what happens here, guys. I'm getting told there's a problem here. You might still be able to hear me. All right. So I'm going to be trying to do some streams when I can. Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks, Jared. But I don't know when I'm going to get the internet hooked up at the other house. So if that should happen, I want to record videos until I can upload them. I'm hoping to get the good internet out there. All right. I'm hoping to get some good internet. This used to be good internet. This used to be good internet. For years, this was good internet. And then they just went to crap. I had a series of videos complaining there for a while when they went downhill here. All right, guys. What do I think about the second Legion reboot? I'll have to look up which one's considered the second now because they've messed things up again. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. I'll do another Legion video sometime there. I'll look that up, Cayman X. You guys be cool. Thanks for hanging in. Be excellent to one another.